And welcome back, everyone, to the Donovan Live Postgame Show after the weekend off with Jimmy Donovan. I'm Dave DiNatale. And a lot to get into because obviously we haven't been here since Thursday. Let's start with baseball, Jimmy. This is awards week in Major League Baseball. Rookies of the Year were handed out yesterday. No surprise, by the way. We never knew Aaron Judge and Cody Bellinger were going to win the awards. But Managers of the Year handed out tonight. On the National League side, an Indians connection with Torey Lovullo, the Manager of the Year of the Diamondbacks, but a guy that really rose up through the ranks in the Tribe organization.
He did.
National League, or the American League Manager of the Year, Paul Molitor of the Twins beats out Terry Francona for the honor.
You know, I always remember, Torey, that there was always a feeling that he was going to end up in Cleveland, maybe not as the manager, but certainly on the staff in Cleveland. But then Mark Shapiro kind of snatched him up, and actually John Farrell snatched him up, and he went up to Toronto, and that helped him a great deal. And he did a great job out in Arizona, really a great job out in Arizona. I mean, that was a much tighter wild card race than over in the American League because the teams were better.
Yes.
Colorado and Arizona were very good. And Arizona then took a run when the Dodgers went into that swoon late in the year and lost like 13 games in a row, and they were just couldn't win. Arizona started to close the gap. Now, the gap was big, but all year long, it was really Arizona, Colorado. They're going to be the wild card teams. And, of course, I thought he did a great job there. So congratulations to him. I think that the Indians organization is first of all, it's solid within its own boundaries. Yeah. But the tree limbs that go out, the roots of the Indians organization to other teams and other organizations in Major League Baseball is extraordinary. I mean, people talk about Billy Beane and Moneyball a lot, okay? And there's no question that was a very unique way. I wish it stayed in baseball rather than leaking in to a certain football field, the whole Moneyball aspect. But anyway, I mean, that's fine, and it was a great movie and everything. But when you consider what the Indians have sent to other organizations and what they've done with their own organization and what they've done with their market size, right? And how they've fought that off and what they're able to do to attract a guy like Terry Francona to come to the organization, it's because it's a great organization. That's the problem the Browns are going to have. Okay, when they go out and they're going to make moves, people are nervous. They're a little doubtful about, hey, this is a scary franchise, scary organization. I'm going to bring my wife and my family here, and how long are we going to be here? How long are my kids going to be in school here before all of a sudden it gets blown up again? That doesn't happen over at Progressive Field, and I applaud them all. So they should be happy that Torey won the they should take a little bit of a piece of that because he was a really good guy.
And you think about it, like you said, Mickey Callaway has kind of moved his way now from being Terry Francona's pitching coach. He's now the manager of the Mets. Kevin Cash is down in Tampa Bay. I mean, everybody. I mean,
Bud Black.
I mean, you really feel this Indians influence.
Yeah, I mean, John Farrell won a World Series with the Red Sox. I mean, really, they've done they've done a great job. I mean, Eric Wedge interviewed already has interviewed for the Yankees job. So I mean, it really. And, if you go back even in Moneyball, I mean, it had an Indians connection, right? I mean, my God. I mean, what am I talking about? But still, I mean, I give the Indians a lot of credit. This is congratulations to Chris Antonetti the other day for getting named the Executive of the Year in a runaway vote.
Wasn't even close. Wasn't even close.
I mean, this is a great story. And here's the problem with the story. The story gets watered down a little bit because they lost in the first round of the playoffs. I know. Right?
But it's important, though, and I think, during the course of the summer when the Jay Bruce trade happened, we were trying to remind people, hey, look, the Indians are doing this because, ownership is spending the money, something they were always accused of never doing during the course of the 2000s and even into this decade. Well, they're doing it, and they're giving Chris Antonetti the resources to go out and sign a guy like Edwin Encarnacion at $20 million a year, and you see the fruits of the labor of it. So you got to tip your cap, I think, to Paul Dolan and the Dolan family for giving Chris Antonetti a lot more to work with than what he's had in the past, and they're able to really build this thing.
You know, and Mark Shapiro left, and it was seamless.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, it became seamless that Antonetti was ready. He was groomed, just really like Mark was underneath John Hart. Yeah. Groomed, just like John Hart was groomed under Hank Peters. You know, groomed to take over. It's really seamless. That's extraordinary. Some franchises, when it falls apart on the field, is directly influenced by the organization falling apart, the minor league operation falling apart, bad draft choices. And the Indians had a period where they struck out a little bit in the draft, but all of that has been changed.
I want to get to the Browns in a second, but I want to finish up here with the point you made.
Now stay on the point. Stay on the point.
Stay on the point. That the point you made, I think, was spot on. You know, if and when the Browns, you know, feel a need going into this offseason to make significant changes, and I think we feel like those clouds are moving in that they're going to do that. You know, the Indians, in some ways, lucked out because they had both Mark Shapiro and Chris Antonetti had a very good relationship from the past with Terry Francona to come in and stabilize what was happening on the field. Well, you know, other than being buddies with Peyton Manning, I don't know what relationships the Haslams have with people in pro football that they can come in and give them free reign and say, okay, go hire, you know, you, Mr. President, I'm going to make you the president, and you go hire your coach and your general manager with contacts. I don't know if they have that kind of bond out there with somebody that can come in pro football and really make a difference here.
I would agree with you. I mean, and I know this is a touchy subject around Cleveland, but when the Browns left and moved to Baltimore, okay, you know, a certain amount of people left with them, office staff, front office staff, media relations staff, football personnel, Ozzie Newsome. Okay? And so, you know, Art Modell had an affection for Ozzie Newsome, gave him an opportunity from the ground up, along with Bill Belichick at the time in Cleveland, to start Ozzie out as a scout, move him up through, and then suddenly he became a general manager who really built them into a Super Bowl championship team, which they did win and remained at that level for a long time and probably will continue to. You're right. I think you're absolutely right. That I think when the Haslams bought the team, I think there was a feeling of comfort here in Cleveland, and the reason why is because they were a very minority piece of the Pittsburgh Steelers. And we look at the Steelers as a very sound, stable, successful franchise. And we said, okay, well, they probably learned how to do that there. In all reality, they were such a minor piece of the Steelers organization, and that was such a family run, and it still is, the Rooney family. I mean, they got nice tickets and parking.
Exactly.
Okay, but I mean, they didn't. It wasn't like the Steelers opened up the pantry and said, "Hey, take all the ingredients."
You know, no, it's come on into the suite. It's like, you know, your buddy Joe Namath. You know, a suite that Joe Namath could appreciate.
Exactly.
Come on in, sit down, and watch the game. Have some food. Enjoy the sights.
Have a nice parking spot. But I think that you're right. I mean, that's a concern, and that's why they've struggled. I think they don't have a connection in the NFL. They were college football people. They loved the University of Tennessee. They were probably more involved in the Butch Jones firing over the weekend at the University of Tennessee than they were in a lot of dealings around the NFL and even with their own franchise, and being able to go out and get people and attract people to come in here. I mean, it's really been scattershot. Of what they do. Now we're going to go get a baseball guy. Now we're going to go get Joe Banner.
Because
we're going to bring back Mike Lombardi. You know, I mean, it's all over the map.
I mean, it was like an arranged marriage with Joe Banner and you know, somebody that could, you know, knew the inner workings of the NFL, not a personnel guy as much as Joe thinks he is. Not really a personnel guy, but you know, you had somebody with NFL credibility, knows the salary cap, knows financials, to come in and kind of help guide Jimmy Haslam. Well, that didn't work. Well, let's find out. You know, that didn't work.
I'm going to tell you something. I think that could have worked.
I do too.
But I think Joe made some mistakes. I think Joe hiring Mike Lombardi was a tragic mistake that he was forewarned about. when the name of Lombardi, Mike Lombardi, and Joe Banner were connected, a lot of people went, hey, Joe, I got to tell you, that's not going to work in Cleveland. Yeah. He did not leave here on good terms. It wasn't a good scenario here. Why would we bring him back? Well, he's been rehabilitated because he's been out of the NFL. He's working at the NFL Network. He still has a brilliant mind. But everything that, unfortunately for Michael, everything that he did before happened again, and it's happened since. Yeah. But I think you're right. Administratively, Joe Banner had it on the right track. Yeah. He knew the business operation. But again, the most important thing you said, which is right on the money, is that here's another guy that did not stay in his lane. Right. Joe felt that he knew personnel. He wanted to make draft picks. He wanted to do this. And, that just wasn't his level of expertise. Right. And thus you have a lot of problems.
He could be the guy right now, still, being the president and CEO of the Browns. He could still have that job if he had gotten the right, I feel like if he had gotten the right guy to help him with the personnel. And Jimmy, for months I was doing a radio show across the street, begging the Browns, Joe Banner, please don't bring back Michael Lombardi. It left too many skids on the roads from what had happened in the 90s. Meanwhile, speaking of the Cleveland Browns, so, again, it's an off day. It's a Tuesday. We generally don't hear too much about things until they get back to work on Wednesday. But a good friend, former Cleveland Brown, he's not a good friend of the guys in Berea right now, but Tayshaun Gibson had an interview with Freddie and Fitz on ESPN Radio last night and had some interesting quotes.
Who comes up with the names of these shows? Freddie and Fitz.
Yes. Could they do? You could do better.
Yeah, I don't know, but it just sounds.
Have you ever?
It's a serious story, but then you put on the title. Freddie and Fitz show. It sounds as though Mr. Green Jeans and Captain Kangaroo are going to come out with Dancing Bear. Okay, for our older audience.
Right. Okay. Yeah, for those who know. From Tayshaun Gibson, quote. I hope, on Mr. Green Jeans show, I truly hope we hang 40 on them. Their offense probably shouldn't score against our defense, and I'm excited. That's the true thing. Also, Gibson said, you look back and I feel for those guys because, like I said, the guys that the Browns let walk out the door, it's nothing they can do. They just go out there and play. It's the guys above them, I'm talking now, these Browns, who make the decisions. It's unfortunate. We see it time and again, opportunity that has slipped by them. He's not wrong.
No, and he's not wrong. No, I remember his story very well. And correct me if I'm wrong, because you're very good at this stuff. And it's a test of my memory. He was an undrafted free agent. I believe he played at Wyoming.
I think you're right.
Okay, I think he's from the L.A. area. And he went out to Wyoming and he played, and the Browns took a chance on him, and lo and behold, he really played well. Yep. Now, he was eligible to become a restricted free agent, and he got ticked with a low offer, tender offer. Yes. I think it was a second-round offer.
Second-round tender.
He wanted a first-round tender offer. He stayed away from all of the off-season activities until the mandatory minicamp. And he showed up, and he was still ticked off, and he also showed up hurt. Yeah. He had a hamstring. But I'm not saying that he dogged it, all year long, but he really was ticked off. And there was no doubt in my mind as I stood in front of him in June, never mind July, in June, that he was not coming back. Okay, he was not going to come back. And he ended up getting a big deal. He walked out with Mitchell Schwartz and all these guys.
And Travis Benjamin,
Benjamin, Alex Mack, all these guys. And he went on his way, and he cashed in. He made good money. Before he got to the point where he was going to get paid, he really was a rising star. When you put him out there with was he with T.J. Ward? I think he was at one point.
Yes.
And then he was with Whitner.
Yeah.
Okay. And I have to tell you, that was a good tandem either way. Okay. Whitner's first year, still pretty good. Second year, not so much. But with Gibson in the backfield with him, and with T.J. Ward before that, that's a pretty good tandem back there at safety in today's NFL. I understand where he's coming from, and he's on a great defense now.
Yes, he is.
Jacksonville has a legitimate defense, and it's incredible. But players have got the Browns diagnosed. That the front office has, you end up on a bad team not because the team is not talented, it's because the picks were wrong.
Right.
The wrong guys left.
Right.
The wrong guys were brought in. The wrong guys were drafted. There was talent there. Wentz was there. Deshaun Watson was there. It's going to haunt them until a savior comes in and turns it around.
I think Gibson got caught up, in the vacuum of having 3 different regimes in 3 straight years. Because you think about 2012, you still had, in that offseason going into the 2012 fall, that was still Mike Holmgren as your president with Tom Heckert as your GM, Pat Shurmur as your head coach. Then you get to 2013, and that was Joe Banner as your CEO and Michael Lombardi as your general manager and Rob Chudzinski as your head coach. And then to 2014, you had the coup in February, and where now it's Ray Farmer as your GM and Mike Penton as your head coach. So, to your point, we always talk about this. Guys are more loyal to the guys that they picked and the guys that they nurture than maybe who the other guys pick and nurture. And I always thought that Tayshaun kind of got caught in that vacuum where nobody stood up and said, "Hey, guys, this is a guy that's got Pro Bowl." He ended up being a Pro Bowler.
He was
here.
a Pro Bowler.
He's got Pro Bowl talent. Let's treat him as such and make him one of the guys that we want to build a future with. And that never happened.
No, it never did. You're right. And, you say so long to them. And they're players that you found and you developed. Now, they are criticized for the many players that they've missed in the draft or in free agency. But here's a guy that they found.
Yes.
They developed, and then he leaves.
Right.
And Jacksonville becomes the beneficiary of a talented player. Alex Mack was a player they drafted, cultivated, made into a great center along with his natural ability. And now Atlanta
reaps the benefits.
And his first year they go to a Super Bowl with him. Kansas City ends up with a very solid right tackle in Mitchell Schwartz, and it's because the Browns let him walk out the door. You can go down the list, go first. Jabal Sheard when he left. That's a guy they drafted, took a chance on because there was a little off the field problem when he was at Pitt. They brought him in here. He excels.
Yes.
He's got a great motor. He had a little bit of an injury problem, but when he was healthy, he was very, very good. Paul Kruger would tell you, he made him get a 10-sack year because of his ability on the other side. But then he walks out. He goes to New England, wins a Super Bowl. It's just, it really is when you experience the 0-9 and you say, how can that happen? Well, what I'm telling you right now, that's how it happens.
It's not just what we see on the field and what you hear Jimmy and Deke talk about during the radio broadcast. There's a method. There's a reason that is far going. I mean, we've talked about it endlessly. It's different regimes and bad draft picks and guys you let walk out the door and culture and on and on.
Well, I mean, you put it in the simplest form. Dave is named the GM of the Cleveland Browns, okay?
I'm very excited to be
He's very excited to be there. We'll get him an orange tie for the press conference, and everything will be fine. He's the general manager. He takes a look at the roster, and he says, well, I'm going to flip the roster now to get my guys in, okay? So he does it, and in Browns tradition, 2 years into it, it isn't working.
Yes.
Okay? I get the job.
Yes.
I come in, I take Dave's roster, and I flip that. When you're constantly doing that, you just don't have the base of a roster. All you have is Joe Thomas.
Right.
That's all you have.
Yeah. I mean, it used to be Joe Thomas and Joe Hayden. Now it's just Joe Thomas. That's all you've got.
That's right, yeah.
That's good. David, can I see did you have that orange tie? Listen.
That's the one.
That's the one right there. So when I have my press conference in Berea to announce me as the next general manager of the Cleveland Browns, I want to wear that tie right there.
We'll get you a nice brown pinstripe suit.
That'd be perfect.
It'd be really, you'll be all ready to go. You'll win the press conference.
I will win the press conference.
That's the new thing. You win the press conference.
If you can win the press conference,
you're off and start.
Right, you're off and running. All right, so
I'm going to tell you that Gibson, his first year, he had a high interception number.
Yeah, he did.
First year, he was a good player. I always enjoyed him. He was a very different player, and he was a very bitter player when that happened. Yeah. And you could tell he was miserable. And I have to tell you, he took a little bit of it out on the field.
Yeah. Well, and here's the long term when we ask how it affects the Browns today. Well, you know, Tayshaun Gibson would be the ideal free safety to be playing next to what should be strong safety Jabril Peppers. It's just like Mitchell Schwartz. If he were here, as you know, you have the injury to Joe Thomas. It's catastrophic. We're all upset. But you can at least move him from right tackle to left tackle, and you at least feel like, okay, for now we've got that situation taken care of. Hey, Mitchell, you might want to start getting used to playing left tackle if Joe Thomas decides it's time to retire. So, you know, it's never one thing with the Cleveland Browns. It's always a multitude.
You know, on that thought, I do want to give a tip of the hat to Spencer Drango. He's actually done a very serviceable job at left tackle for the Browns. He did very well against Minnesota, who I'm not saying they're the purple people eaters of Bud Grant, but I will tell you this, that he's done a very good job. He did well in London. He did even better, I think, in the game Sunday. He's done a very good job at left tackle. I know everyone went, oh, my goodness, right. Spencer Drango, that's going to be like a swinging gate,
exactly,
you know, over at left tackle. And it hasn't been that way at all. He's done a very good job. Now, the early returns are good, okay?
Right.
I'm not ready to get it, as Bill Parcells said about, who was it, Jeremy Shockey, that time down at the Hall of Fame game when Parcells was doing the game. Shockey's first game out of Miami with the Giants, and he made a bunch of catches. He went, hey, wait a minute, I'm not making his bust yet to put into the Hall of Fame. But Spencer Drango, good for him.
That is good for him. Jimmy, good to have you and us back here.
Yes,
we'll do it again tomorrow. Real quick, Corey Kluber, Cy Young tournament by the time we do this.
It's important, everybody, to remember, these are all voted on
before the playoffs.
Before the playoffs, before the bad bat.
Yes. All right, we'll do it again for you tomorrow night. For Jimmy Donovan, I'm Dave Tinatelli with my orange tie. There it is. That is my orange tie on the Donovan Live Postgame Show. Thanks, everyone.